Hey, hi guys. So this is my first video. Today I'm going to be teaching you how I make spaghetti bolognese. Okay, so this is a recipe that I make myself and don't follow any kind of traditional recipe for bolognese. It's kind of basically, I learned how to cook it from my mother and then I changed it over time to kind of suit how I like it basically. So that's what we're going to do today. I'll show you what the ingredients are, I'll kind of teach you how I prep it and cook it, and hopefully the whole thing works out quite well and it's something that you might like to give a shot. Okay, so I'll just go through quickly what the ingredients are that we've got here today. So obviously bolognese, we have got some 5% lean steak mince. This is a 500 gram pack. Don't worry too much about how lean it is. Today I've got lean 5%. Typically I use the 12%. Sometimes I even use 20%, okay? It's just what was in the fridge today. If you are a bit more budget conscious and want to save money, you know, the higher percent fat minces do cost less. It just kind of means that as you're cooking it, you might need to drain the fat off from it later. But today I've just got the 5% fat lean steak mince, so I shouldn't have to drain any fat off of this. Next up, obviously, the spaghetti. Again, budget conscious people. Here I've just got some really kind of value spaghetti from the shop. Nothing too fancy, okay? A couple of small onions. So again, for 500 grams of mince, a couple of small onions. That could be, you know, one medium to large onion size, okay? We have got some garlic paste. Now I like to use these little pots or the little squeezy tubes because I like just to have things nice and handy. I use garlic quite a lot, so it's worth me having these little pots kind of kicking about, so I can just fire the garlic straight in, not really have to worry about prepping it. Again, tin of chopped tomatoes. Again, nothing too exciting, just your basic kind of value chopped tomatoes. The other thing I like to add is this. This is tomato passata. It is just tomatoes pureed down and served, so it's a nice smooth tomato sauce. Okay, good for making other things like pizza sauce, yeah. But I don't like having too many bits in my sauces, so passata is really good because they sieve all the bits out, nice and smooth. Then finally we've got some beef stock. I just like to use these kind of jelly kind of stock pots. They kind of blend quite well with the sauces. You don't get any kind of lumps or bits kind of left over. And some Italian based herbs. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that's going to be going into our bolognese sauce today. So prep wise, there's not too much prep to do with this recipe. It's nice and simple, okay? Always make sure you have a sharp knife when you're in the kitchen. Sharp knives are actually safer, so you don't have to make so much effort when cutting, okay? We're going to prep our onions. Like I say, I like to prep things when I'm chopping this nice and small, okay? So I don't like having big chunks of stuff in my sauces, but you know what? Do it how you like it. We're just going to take the bottoms off these. If you do worry about kind of crying when you're chopping onions, cut the bottom off and kind of leave them to stand for a few minutes, and the kind of juices all kind of soak out the bottom, because it's when you're cutting them the vapors pop out at you. If you do that, leave them for a while, you won't get that, okay? Cut the bases off, and we go around and just peel off all the brown bits, okay? Yeah, so any bits of brown, tough onion, we don't want that because it's not going to cook well. We're also not going to be able to digest it well. It's not very tasty. So make sure that all we're kind of left with is the nice crisp. So you can see under there, that's got a bit more brown on it. Take that layer off. Yeah. Just take one layer off at a time until you're left with a nice onion. Set that to the side. Same thing with this one. Just make a start. I typically only use one knife when I'm doing this. This is just a large kind of Japanese style chef's knife. I don't use too many different knives. One knife should do the job of everything. Okay. So just move that. Okay, we'll put that in the bin later. Okay, so now we're just going to dice up our onions, okay? Take the little top bit off. Like I say, I like to chop things really finely. I'll show you a trick that I use for doing that. Cut them in half, okay? And then this is again the reason why we want a nice sharp knife. Without cutting all the way through it from end to end, just stop a little bit short and just cut little lines down the front, okay? You can also turn your blade sideways and cut along that way as well, but you can see the onions kind of still in place. From there, we chop down this way, and you can see already that's made some nice fine diced onion. Okay, what you do with the end bit, once you're kind of done, we just turn that over and finally chop that. Nice, quick and easy way to fine dice your onions. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice. I used to, when I was younger, in my late teens, early 20s, I actually was kind of training as a chef. So this is where I learned this trick. It's one of the things that I've always taken with me. So little chops that way, little slice along the middle, and then fine dicing. Little end bit, chop that up, off to the side. Okay, take your time with this though. Chop it how you like it. Like I say, my preference is very fine. And just watch your fingers, yeah? Okay, so those are onions. So basically, I only put onion in my bolognese. Other people put things like celery and carrot and whatever else. I just like onion, I don't like any of those other bits. So from here, it's basically now straight over to the pan and we start adding ingredients and cooking the sauce up, okay? So we'll move on over there. Okay, so we're ready to start cooking this up now, right? I've got a pan here, that's going to be for my bolognese sauce. I've got a pot over here with some hot water in it for cooking our spaghetti. Try and get this all kind of done at the same time so that when we're finished it's all ready together to go on the plate, okay? But if you're not as confident or whatever experienced in the kitchen, just do everything kind of one bit at a time. Don't overload yourself with too many tasks, okay? Because that's where things start to go wrong, you get stressed out, and then you don't want to kind of go back in the kitchen again. So take each kind of step as it goes. You'll end up having a much more enjoyable time, and you'll enjoy your food better at the end of it. And then as you kind of get better at it, you can start to do more things at once. So hot water, just boil the kettle, put hot water in there, get that fired up. Okay, I'm cooking with gas here. I love cooking with gas, I just have more control over the temperature, but you know what, it doesn't really matter. Again, we're going to get that nice and hot. So basically I've got all my kind of ingredients laid out here, ready to go. I've taken the top off my tin of tomatoes, so that's ready to throw in. Everything's kind of just ready to go in. So I'm not fiddling about with different bits as we go. Because we've used 5% mince today, I'm going to use a little bit of sunflower oil or vegetable oil, doesn't matter what. A little bit of oil in the pan. If I was using a fattier meat, like the 20% fat meat, I probably wouldn't really use any, maybe even just a little bit of oil. Yeah, I don't have any today, but also olive oil is quite nice in there, gives you a bit more flavour. So get that nice and hot. As soon as this starts boiling, I'll get the spaghetti in, and that'll kind of take about 10 minutes to cook. Similarly, this will be about 10-15 minutes to kind of get everything in, and then we can leave it for about, another 15-20 minutes just to cook away. All those flavours will go in quite nicely. Okay? So, how much spaghetti do you use? Good question. How much spaghetti do you like? Personally, I don't like a lot of spaghetti on my plate. I prefer more meat sauce, so it's up to you, personal preference. I usually kind of take a small grip. For me, that's kind of a one portion size. Lost a bit of spaghetti in the pan there. Okay. But yeah, it's up to you how much you use. You'll figure it out eventually. You can probably weigh it, maybe about 60 grams per person. But I do it by eye. For me, that's about 2 portions worth, okay? So, spaghetti in the pan, give it a wee twist, drop it in. That will soften up and all fall into the pan as we go, okay? So that's about there. This pan's getting nice and hot. Oil's nice and hot, but not so hot that it starts to smoke, okay? We don't want this burning the onion as soon as we put that in. So I'll turn that heat down a little bit, and we're ready to go. Okay? So, onion, straight in. Okay? Using our spatula, just move that around. We're going to brown these onions off a little bit. We want to soften these onions and get them turning just slightly golden brown. Turning that heat down because I don't want to burn these. Again, give that a wee push, get that all in there. Okay, now as that's browning, get the garlic, nice tablespoon of garlic. I like quite a lot of garlic. You can put as much garlic as you like. You don't have to put garlic in, but I love it, so it goes in. So I don't know if you can see that's starting to kind of go a little bit brown. So once that starts going brown, that's the perfect time to get our mince in. Straight out the packet, turn it upside down, don't forget to take the little paper bit off, okay, and then we start to separate that mince out with our spatula, okay. So now again at this point I'm going to bring my heat back up, and I'm using medium to high heat for this, and I'm going to brown off my mince. So all that red meat, I want to cook that off until it's all kind of nice and brown, a greyish brown, okay? I don't want to see any red meat left. Spaghetti's cooking away nicely. Give that a wee mix up just so it doesn't stick together. Like I said, I don't want to muck about with it too much, okay? Let it cook. Then we move it around, okay? I like to use a flat spatula for this, just so I can break that mince up. So I don't end up with big kind of chunks of mince in my sauce. Helps it to cook a little bit faster as well. So while I'm doing that, my spaghetti's boiling quite furiously there. I don't want it to boil too hard. Again, that will bubble over and potentially spill out over my cooker. So Just turning the temperature down on that so it's just bubbling nicely. And keep breaking up that mince. This time as well, you'll also notice there's probably quite a lot of steam coming off your mince. That's just the kind of water content that was in there. We'll evaporate that off. Round that up. Now, one thing you can do with bolognese, if you like, you can throw a little bit of red wine in here while this is happening. Okay, I'm not going to do that today, but it does add a nice little bit of flavour. You want to put your red wine in at the start so that you can cook some of that alcohol off. You don't want to end up with a boozy bolognese. But by putting it in now, you'll cook off some of the alcohol and add a little bit of flavour to it. Very nice. But because typically my kids eat this, they don't like the red wine flavour, so I don't put it in too often. Okay, we mix around. I can see now that that mince is kind of all browned off. There's not any red pinkish meat left in there. Okay, so that's pretty good. Again, I'm going to turn my temperature down here. This is the advantage of having gas. I can kind of put the temperature up and down quite quickly. If you've got an induction hob, it takes a little bit longer. So here as well, I'm just going to add some seasoning, black pepper. Okay, that even come out. There we go. Black pepper, with salt. Okay, so now we're going to start adding our other ingredients. So we've already got our onion in there, we've got our beef in there. Yeah, a little bit of salt and pepper. Now we're going to start to add our other ingredients. Oh, and garlic. We've got garlic in there. And that's cooking away nicely. This would be the stage that you would drain off any fat if you were using a higher percent fat, okay? You would drain it from here. If you've got a lid for your pot, you can just drain it into a container. Okay, never drain it down your sink. Don't pour fat down your sink. Okay, drain it into a container and then you can dispose of that into the bin. Okay, so stock pot. Now, there's a couple of ways you can use these. You either dissolve them in some water beforehand, or, like I do, pop straight into the pot. Okay? Because my other ingredients are going to have quite a lot of moisture in them as well, that will help to dissolve that stock pot. Okay? Stock pot's in. Tomatoes are in. Okay? Bring that heat up a little bit, get that going round. Get those cooking. Again, if it's not got enough water, you can add a little bit of extra water in there just to get the sauce cooking off. Again, that moisture will evaporate off again. It's just to get that sauce started. Good. Herbs. Sprinkling of herbs on top. So this is just Italian style herb blend. You can use whatever herbs you like. Again, get that in there. And then lastly, our passata. So again, this is just a tomato sauce. This isn't a full carton, by the way. I'd already used kind of maybe about a third of this carton on something else. So only add as much as you need to make that nice and saucy. Like I say, I like my bolognese to be very tomatoey and very, very saucy, okay? Give that a gentle stir around. We don't want to splash anything out of the pot. Gentle stir around. And we're going to let that cook. So another thing when you're making a tomato-based sauce that you can add in is just like a teaspoon of sugar, okay? And that just helps to take that kind of acidity, kind of taste off the tomatoes. That little bit of sweet from the sugar just eliminates that acidity kind of that you get on your tongue. So not too much, okay? We don't want a really sweet sauce. We'll just try to take that bit, the edge off that bitterness, okay? And then we're going to turn that heat all the way down and let that simmer. So if you have one, you can put a lid on top of there just to help that cook a little bit more quickly. Check on our spaghetti while we're doing that. That looks pretty good. Take a piece, break it. Yep, that breaks quite nicely. Have a wee taste. And that's perfect, okay? So we're going to turn that off. I like to cook my spaghetti so it's quite soft. Other people like to still have a bit of firmness, kind of bite to the spaghetti. So just have a wee taste of a piece, see if it's where you want it to be. Okay? So I'm just going to drain the spaghetti off now so we don't overcook it. And let's just check in with our sauce here. Like I say, at this stage when you're kind of done adding your ingredients, just let it simmer away. Let the flavours all kind of blend together, let the herbs release their flavours. Let that all cook together nicely. But, as with anything, have a wee taste, okay? And for me, that is absolutely perfect, okay? So what you're tasting for, you're just checking your seasoning. If you need to add any more salt or pepper or a bit more garlic or more herbs, whatever. Just have a taste of it and see if it's delicious. If it's delicious, leave it alone, let it cook. And the next part is basically serve it up. So like I say, in total, from start to finish, this is probably going to be about a 30-minute plan, yeah. So from prepping your ingredients, cutting your onions, getting everything in the pan, cooking your spaghetti, should be all done in about 30 minutes, okay? Like I say, I'm just going to leave this to simmer for about 5-10 more minutes, then we'll get it on the plate and you'll see it then. Okay, here we are. Everything is cooked, everything is ready. We're ready to plate up. So again, if you're not sure how much spaghetti to make, you know, it doesn't really matter. You use as much or as little as you need, whatever you like. You know, like I say, I don't like a lot of spaghetti. You know, I just end up getting a bit too bloated with too much pasta. So a little bit of spaghetti for me. Use however much you want. If you cook too much, a little bit of olive oil on that in a tub in the fridge. You know, keep it for another meal. Perfect. A little bit of spaghetti. Nice meat sauce coming in. right in there. Like I say, I like more meat than pasta, so 2 ladles on there for me. And that's your dinner, okay? You can grate cheese on top of that, a little bit of Parmesan, cheddar cheese, very, very nice. Nice saucy kind of bolognese, garlic bread on the side, you can dip that up. Absolutely perfect meal. There we go. Spaghetti Bolognese a la me, okay? So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you very much. Hit us a like, follow us, ask for more recipes if you like. I'll be putting more up soon. Okay, take it easy.